Mike McConville here again for StringTech Workstations. I have one of the most unorthodox vintage restorations I've ever had to do. The back had to be removed. It was totaled, split length, like end to end in 4 places, and then rebuilt. And I ended up doing something, like I said, very unorthodox. While I had the back off, I got inside. I had complete access to the top, which was beautiful. Basically cleaned up all the braces that were loose and got them all glued, so the structural integrity is right back intact now. But something else that I did that I've never really done before, when I glued the back on, I actually flexed the neck back a little bit, and that allowed me to actually do a neck reset without removing the neck. This is going to make more sense as we move along there. I'll give you the full story. Cheers. So what I'm doing here is I'm actually razor blading, scraping the inside of the sides after they were wetted and bent. The thickness sanding marks were more prominent. I'll be scraping those flush, and I will actually be going right up, right over the entire interior surface of the side, scraping them before I put my kerfing on and before I put the side reinforcements on. I'll do my best to kind of film this as I go, but I'm doing it in between repairs, so like I said, I can't do the Hollywood thing, but I'll give you the content. Cheers. Now that the sides have set, I leave the clamps on just at the waist. So you still got that strap of oak across here, and then at the joint at the top. These sides have come out beautiful. So I've basically taken a razor blade and I'm scraping out the sort of fine sanding marks from the thickness sander. I strap it down on the body platform of the tech deck. I can kind of go right at it. I've got complete access. It's held perfectly in place. Very unorthodox approach here. Never done it quite like this before, but it worked like a charm. What you see there, that plastic strip of binding, is actually holding on the small piece of rosewood that I glued to the ledge that I cut. You'll see it up close in a second. The rosewood was glued to that small ledge with hide glue. The nice thing about plastic, like I've said in other videos, is it doesn't stick to hide glue. It's a wonderful thing. Pull off that last piece of tape. This thing just comes right off. So that is the little slip of rosewood that we put on that edge. What I've done is to prevent steaming the neck off and refinishing the whole neck to body junction here at the heel. When I had the back off, because the back had to come off, it was split in 4 pieces. So I removed the back, completely restructured the back, and then when I glued it on, and I have a radius sander that you're going to see as I move along with the Dreadnought build, you'll get a better idea what I'm talking about, this spherical radius sander that I designed about 40 years ago. So now that piece of rosewood has basically filled the gap, that step route that I needed to make to be able to flex the back. So we did a neck reset without pulling the neck off. And you'll see as we move along with this restoration that we've got exactly the perfect neck to body angle without having to steam off the dovetail and completely remove the neck. And when you get into this type of vintage finish, well, and this one's pretty rough, you'll see when I flip it over. We did a neck reset essentially without taking the neck off the guitar. So I kind of flexed the neck and basically bought back that real estate at 80 years of string tension. This whole thing is going to make a lot more sense as we move along. Now, I know a lot of young builders and techs starting out are kind of intimidated by the idea of hide glue, but here's another argument for hide glue. It does not stick to lacquer. Man, now that is a bonus that you'll just come to appreciate more and more as time goes on. So as you can see, I've got this kind of set up so that I can scrape off the thickness sanding marks on the inside of the mold and get that nice and smooth, because there'll be some hardwood veneer cross-grain straps going across these sides as well. So I'll flip it over in a second, and I'll do the other side, and then we'll turn it 180 and I'll get at this end. Well, I've left the clamps on just on the waist, just to hold it in tight as I'm scraping, but a few more strokes and should be ready to go. Okay, I flipped that over. Now I'm on to the other side of the lower bout. I like a razor blade because it takes very little material. And of course you could use a cabinet scraper for this as well, but I like I prefer to use the razor blades, readily available, super sharp, and does the job wonderfully. I'm about to turn this thing 180, and then we'll get the upper bout right up. Beautiful. That's done. So I flipped the mold 180, strapped it back down. Again, taking out all the sandy marks and getting an ultra smooth finish on the inside of the guitar. I got the sides thickness to 85 thou, which may seem a little bit thick for some people, but I like that little bit of extra real estate in the thickness to allow me to sort of scrape it nice and smooth. So they'll be a little bit thinner than that, obviously, when I'm done. Just about done. Ooh, we are done. Beautiful. Right up to that seam, and then I'll flip it again and get the other side. All right, we're on the home stretch of this. This is the last quarter. We're just starting at the waist. Just got to reposition those clamps and move them back, so now I can get right to the top of the waist. And yeah, so razor blade, overlapping my strokes, and scraping that nice and smooth. And that'll do it. Okay, I want to show you where we're going with this. This little strip of rosewood that's glued onto that ledge. So this plastic binding is basically flush. The little strip of rosewood that we put on there will virtually be undetectable and will, if anything, make the guitar even stronger. So that's what we're going with, very simple plastic strip. I just want to sort of illustrate that. This is that strip, glued on with hide glue, just peels right off the lacquer. We're going to flush that out, then both sides will be ready, and then we'll do the two binding strips from head block to tail block. Okay, head block and tail block are glued in. We'll start on the kerfing tomorrow. Now these are the pieces that I make up. I run these over the table saw, cant the blade, and each piece will yield 2 strips of kerfing. So the purpose of the kerfing is to increase the width of the sides so that you have a larger surface to glue your top and your back to. So head block, tail block's in, the kerfing is roughed out. Tomorrow I will make the kerfing and glue it into place. Cheers.